Welcome back. New information this morning that Governor McAuliffe of Virginia tomorrow will announce that he has restored voting rights for 13,000 felons on a case-by-case basis, and he will be announcing that tomorrow. Donald Trump is also laying the groundwork for claims of voter fraud. A brand new television ad airing in several swing states says that the system is rigged. The Trump campaign is spending $5 million to run the commercials, trying to fire up Republicans in states where early voting gets underway in a few weeks, like North Carolina, for example, where the courts struck down a voter ID law that judges said targeted African Americans. Our Fox News senior correspondent Eric Shawn digs deeper into these concerns. So you don't need an ID to vote?
Well, it depends upon what state you're in, if it's a photo ID or not, if you have an affidavit. You know, Maria, for years I've covered and investigated voter and election fraud cases here at Fox News, and you won't believe what we found. Take a look at this. These are absentee ballots that were faked. Prosecutors in Troy, New York said politicians simply stole elections by handing in fraudulent ballots that they filled out as real votes. The unsuspecting voters we talked to said they did not even know their votes were robbed. So you didn't write that?
I did not.
You didn't cast a ballot?
I did not.
Did you vote?
No.
Did you fill out an absentee ballot?
Nope.
Did you fill out an absentee ballot application?
Nope, I didn't fill out any of those.
So your vote was a fraud?
It was.
In Kentucky, prosecutors said 20 public officials stole elections by buying votes, spending $400,000 to buy 8,000 votes over several elections. You sold your vote?
Mm-hmm.
How much did you sell your vote for?
$25.
Well, in Cincinnati, veteran poll worker Hillary Richardson was charged with voting in the 2008 and 2012 presidential election not once, but 2 and 3 times. She pled no contest to 4 counts, including voting for her sister, who had been in a coma for a decade. In Pennsylvania, 7 election officials have been hit with election fraud charges just in the last year and a half, from cases of illegal voting to tampering with voting machines and adding phony votes. You know, a 2012 report by a Philadelphia Republican city commissioner found voting by non-registered individuals, voting divisions with more votes than voters, individuals voting more than once, and voting by non-U.S. citizens. And election fraud actually hit the race for the White House in the 2008 race. Democratic operatives in Indiana were convicted of faking signatures on the presidential petitions that put then Senator Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton on the ballot. So many signatures were phony that authorities said the president may not have actually had enough signatures to qualify for the primary ballot. Is that your signature on this?
That's not my signature.
Did you sign this petition for Barack Obama?
No.
You did not?
No.
I did not sign for Barack Obama.
So someone forged this?
That's correct.
Well, so this is how it worked in Indiana. It is unbelievable. You need 500 signatures from each congressional district in Indiana. In South Bend, President Obama qualified with 534 signatures. But prosecutors said 100 to 200 signatures were faked. So that brings the Obama number down below the legal number that he needed to qualify. The prosecutor told me, had this been caught at the time, Maria, the president probably would not have qualified for the ballot and would have been bounced from that primary ballot. But all this fraud wasn't caught until 3 years after the election.
This is unbelievable, Eric. You've done such good work on this. We want to bring in, so congratulations, thank you. John Fund is with us. He is columnist for National Review magazine. John, thank you very much for joining us. And you two have done so much work on this. First off, the Terry McAuliffe situation in Virginia tomorrow. What's your sense? Would that classify as potentially raising a red flag for potential voter fraud?
Well, felons aren't allowed to vote until they get their rights restored. They've proved themselves to be part of the mainstream of society. What Terry McAuliffe is doing is not on a case-by-case basis. He's trying to put every felon back on the voter rolls, including 232 serious sex offenders. So there was no distinction made between what kind of crime you committed and the kind of people Terry McAuliffe wanted to give back the voting rights to.
So that could basically come under a review in terms of whether or not this is voting fraud.
Well, the Supreme Court has already slapped him down and said he can't do it for all 200,000, so now he's trying to do it for a small segment of that group.
How worried are you? What's your reaction to Eric's report?
Well, we have a sloppy, inefficient system. So sometimes you don't know when the sloppiness ends and the fraud begins, because the sloppiness feeds into the fraud. We make it so easy for people to vote in someone else's name. In New York City, investigators from the New York City Department of Investigation went out and tried to vote in the names of people who were out of state, dead, or felons. and 61 out of 63 times they were handed ballots. One of the times, the 2 times they weren't, is because somebody was trying to vote in the name of the son of one of the poll workers. So the point is there's a 97% success rate, because if you don't have an ID law, as Eric said, in half the states you don't, there is no way to really catch someone, and once they vote, it goes in the ballots with all the other ballots, and you can never segregate it out and find out where the fraud is.
Eric.
Yeah, you know what we saw in 2008, the Norma Coleman, Al Franken race, that they separated by 341 votes. It wasn't until later that studies found at least 1,000 felons they believe illegally voted in that race,
And 200 were convicted.
200 convicted, yeah. So, but that still didn't get to the 341. But
it was found out after he was sworn in. You couldn't do anything.
I mean, these no ID states is just mind-boggling. Who's to stop anybody from voting 4 times?